We got the Game Awards, acquisitions, and Black Friday. Let's talk. What up, viewers? What up? What up? Couch Soups here, and today is Friday, November 22nd, and that means it's time for a quick recap of the week in video game news. Like I said, it's beginning to look a lot like my favorite time of year. It's award season within the realm of video games. Yes, the Jeff Keighley's are 3 weeks away. I think about roughly 3 weeks away. And yeah, I'm very excited. I always enjoy this, and I have a little competition that I do with like friends and coworkers on who can guess the game awards. So, speaking of the nominations, Final Fantasy VII is nominated for 7 different awards as well. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is nominated for 7 awards as well as Game of the Year, and so is Astrobot. So PlayStation's mascot could be walking away with several awards next in a couple weeks. I think I speak for more than myself when I say a lot of people are saying, like, I know the impact that Balaltro had on the gaming space, but have it be like up there with Game of the Year seems a little off. Frankly, I'm thinking that it's somewhere between Metaphor and like a Final Fantasy or something like that. So yeah, I don't know if I also saw articles saying that like Black Myth Wukong is probably the lowest Metacritic scored game ever nominated for Game of the Year. But I know that that had a big impact and sold like 10 million units very quickly. So, you know, I think a lot of them deserve to be there. And I even saw some people saying that Stellar Blade was snubbed, which I don't know that I agree with that either, but it is a little weird to see Balaltro in there. Although I would consider it like big indie games, and I know there's a lot of discrepancy on like what counts as indie, and that's a little contentious there. But yeah, I'm curious to see Balaltro in there, and I still haven't actually downloaded it on my phone now that it's on mobile. So, but I digress. Yeah, so looking forward to. I'll probably continue to talk about game awards, and it's also part game award show and also part uh, video game announcements. So I assume they'll be talking about a lot of stuff coming out in the first half of next year at the game awards. So excited to see that portion of it as well. But if there's anything that you feel about the game awards, feel free to leave it down below in the comments. I love hearing what people think about it, so looking forward to that. Moving right along, we do have games launching even this late in the year. Stalker 2, after several delays, has finally launched. And yeah, I actually had to look up how long it's been since the first one. The first game came out in '07, which makes this a 14 years since for a sequel, which is, or no, 14, no, 17 years. Math is hard. 17 years for a sequel. There have been, I don't know if they were expansion packs or how there were different epithets associated with the previous Stalker games. I think the latest one was like 2011. So even then, that's been over a decade since we've had like, more Stalker games. Um, but yeah, the game's finally here. It's launched, and it's got a 74 Metacritic. I heard a lot about the bugs in the game are very similar to the ones that were there, over a decade ago, which means that they're probably working off the same engine, and some of those things still apparently happen. So, uh, I think it sounds, if it's still there, if you still enjoyed the first one, it sounds like you might have some of the old problems, but also it sounds like it to be very similar to what you enjoyed about it. So if you like the original Stalker games, sounds like you will like this one as well. So not necessarily a damning 74 Metacritic there. Moving right along, the games industry is starting to get their first look, or at least games media is starting to get their first look at Avowed. That is Obsidian's next RPG game. Rightfully so. In the articles that I read, they say obviously it's got that Outer Worlds feel to it, which again, Obsidian game. I'd say it's very zone based. So like if you played Outer Worlds, it like it wasn't fully open world. It was like you would be able to explore a big zone, and then you'd be bottlenecked into some kind of town in this case, or some kind of thing you have to interact with. You pick up the quest, you go spread out into the zone again, and so on and so forth. Maybe a little bit like Dragon Age Inquisition, if I remember how that played very well. It looks like the combat looks very, because it's first person, looks very Skyrim-y. But the characters are going to be as fleshed out as, if not more so, in Outer Worlds, like there were in Outer Worlds, better dialogue than like a Skyrim game. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this next RPG. I know that Microsoft was like slowly trickling out RPGs until we eventually get to Elder Scrolls 6. But yeah, it was cool to kind of see a little bit on Avowed coming out this week. So, looking forward to that. Speaking of Microsoft RPGs, Fable, they're talking about like what the combat system is going to be look like this week. I read an article saying that they're going to level it up and that it's going to be a little bit more tactical and should be more Witcher-like. That's their direct quote there. And yeah, I remember, the Fable games weren't known for their like deep combat, and I think an action RPG has to have, a more gritty and intense, action to it nowadays than probably older Fables could support. So as much as I love the original ones, I think myself just getting older and the games industry getting more mature, I can see people probably wanting maybe not necessarily a Soulsian, maybe a stamina bar, they have to manage or something like that. But even if the spells feel a little bit like Witcher, if that was what they were kind of alluding to, that'd be pretty cool on how like combat oriented the spells are, and less just like overall powerful and fireballs maybe. So yeah, looking forward to what Fable has to offer when it eventually comes out. Speaking of the opposition, or jumping to the opposition, Sony was it started out as a rumor this week, and then everyone involved confirmed that it is happening. So Sony is looking to buy the company above From Software, from known for Speaking of Dark Souls, but yeah, apparently it sounds like, and I don't quite know how the corporate structure works, but From Software is under a greater umbrella. I don't know what the name of that company is, but that is the company that Sony is attempting to buy, and not just From Software itself. uh, Obviously, people are going to start thinking about like, hey, how does this impact Bloodborne 2? We're going to get that, or we're going to start cranking that up a little bit, production up on that sooner rather than later. With Elden Ring doing so well, I could see why they, I bet From Software is worth a lot more than they were, a couple years ago before they released Elden Ring. So, and speaking of, that was the other Game Awards nomination that was contentious. I, for one, if I'm going to tangent and go back a little bit, I, for one, don't necessarily agree that Shadow of the Erd Tree counts as, a full-fledged game to be nominated for Game of the Year, but I could see a lot of people pushing for it, and it is a big DLC from what I've heard. So, but again, I don't know about expansions counting as for Game of the Year. But those would be the two games that I am waffling between, as a Metaphor and Shadow of the Erd Tree, just because of how popular it was. But going back, yes, Sony will be, like I said, it started off as a rumor, and then this week, like Sony confirmed it after From Software confirmed it, and the parent company confirmed it. So everyone knows that this deal is happening. It's just a matter of when, it sounds like, and crossing T's and dotting I's. So yeah, Sony will soon be fully in control of From Software, it sounds like. And whatever else might also be under this parent company. I really should look into what all involved in that. Moving right along, Hasbro is trying to get back into video games after an investment of $1 billion a couple years ago into like gaming and wanting to be involved, and then they started laying off people, and Baldur's Gate happened. Yeah, they were investing a large sum of money into the gaming space, but nothing really came of it over the past couple years. But now the CEO is starting to talk about bringing Dungeons and Dragons and Magic, again, trying to push that forward into the video game space. It's obvious, tabletop games are obviously, ripe for, getting converted into some kind of digital version. Several D&D games, haven't done well in the past. Thinking of Dark Alliance there, but obviously Baldur's Gate 3 did really well. So I don't know that you can necessarily just go pluck some random devs to go build like Baldur's Gate 4 or something like that. But you know, licensing the D&D IP out, potentially just the rule set to be used in different games that are kind of spin-offs. Maybe we get a Icewind Dale or Neverwinter Nights type game as well. So there's definitely more that can be done with the D&D space. And then Magic, other than the card game and digitizing the card game, I'd be curious what else you would do with that IP, whether or not you have another Duels of the Planeswalkers, or just a generic action RPG where you play as one of the Planeswalkers or something like that, or move between worlds. Could be fun to explore the worlds that way as well. I think as also part of this, they talked about like TV and movies again, which whether or not that's a thing, and apparently the series is still happening, which I have my doubts about. But overall, Hasbro is looking to be deeper and more involved with games again, and hopefully sometime soon we get to see the fruits of someone's labor somewhere. So yeah, curious to see. Or was this all just a way to trump up some support and increase their stock a little bit as they say a couple buzzwords and say we want to get more into gaming, the biggest form of entertainment, the most revenue generating form of entertainment. So curious to see what comes of this. Like I said, Black Friday is next week, so it's just a week from today. I don't know that I'll do a news report next week, but there's lots of deals out there. I think the biggest of which, Amazon's Black Friday week started sometime, I think yesterday. Yeah, there's a ton of gaming stuff that I'm keeping on my wish list. A lot of PlayStation related stuff, like I saw the DualSense controllers, I saw headsets on sale, some console products as well. I was actually kind of interested in the Sony specific headsets. I'm curious how compatible those are with things other than a PlayStation. As someone who is currently corded in, I would love to be able to Bluetooth onto my Sony products. So curious what people think of the earbuds or the full wraparound or full over ear headphones. I might be looking for those for Black Friday, but let me know what you're picking up down below in the comments. Speaking of hardware, Steam is looking to get back into the hardware game. I know that they made the VR headset a couple years ago, and no, we're not talking about a new or more updated, post OLED Steam Deck. They're actually looking to get a new Steam controller, which I'll dust off my old one to compare it to the new one if they're working on like a Steam controller 2.0. They're also looking to update the VR controller. So those are the way, Steam always keeping us on our toes. They're going to be, I guess, working on a new Steam controller. So interested to see what comes from that. Last week, we talked about Lego Horizon Adventures, a digital Lego adventure set within the world of Horizon Zero Dawn or Horizon Forbidden West. And now, to celebrate that, which a week after launch and just in time to potentially buy them and get them under the tree for the holidays, there is a physical version of Horizon Forbidden West characters and monsters being turned into Lego sets. So I think we've all seen the long neck platform creature. That's had a Lego set for a while now, but I assume since they have all the like 3D printed or 3D assets and ported into the game, that they could just easily turn around and turn those into physical products as well. So very curious what different sets there are for Lego Horizons, and I'm actually looking to potentially play Horizon Adventures with my wife. So looks like a fun co-op game to play, and maybe eventually I can convince her to, put a little Lego set on the shelf after we, build that. Maybe I will put it under the Christmas tree. Last but not least, this week, the second trailer for a Minecraft movie. The Minecraft movie, what was out this week. came out this week. It was another 2.5 minute trailer or so. We got a little bit more length, I think. And this one just feels a little bit more endearing. I know that the bar is set pretty low because that first trailer was pretty bad in my opinion, even if I'm not the target audience. But yeah, I think this one felt a little bit more endearing. The characters felt a little bit more fleshed out than we originally saw in the first trailer. I don't yet think that I feel like I've seen everything that the movie has to offer in the trailer, which happens a lot with Hollywood trailers, of late. But yeah, this one felt a little bit more endearing and made me want to see it potentially a little bit more. So feel free to check that out. I'll have a link down below in the description. But that's it for this week. Let me know if you feel I forgot anything down below in the comments. But as always, thanks for watching. I hope you have a super day. I hope you have a super weekend. And I hope you have a super day. Bye.